Hi everyone. So in today's video I'll be working on a piece of furniture, redoing it, and it's such a weird looking piece. I don't even know what it is. Like, I don't have a name for it. Maybe you guys can help me out once you see it. We got this piece from someone that didn't want it anymore, and to me it's just such a challenge to try to turn it into something beautiful. Hopefully we'll see how it goes. I'll be honest with you, it's been a while that I've been in front of the camera. You guys probably don't think about it, being that I kept posting videos that I had filmed beforehand. But we got to visit some of the western states in the United States, like Idaho, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Montana, just beautiful. And probably more on that later. I think I'll end up putting a video out there just of some of the beauty that we saw. I was never out west. You can imagine that if you guys have been, you probably know that I was in my glory with all of just the beautiful natural scenery and just the wide open vastness of it, and of course all the wildlife and the flowers, and I could go on and on. But if this video seems a little bit out of sorts, it's probably because I've been kind of out of practice, I guess. But it was really good, and we feel blessed to have been able to take a trip like this. But let's get back to the subject at hand. So initially when I came out here to the shop, I was going to work on the piece of furniture to my right, which is an antique wardrobe. It has a mirror on the other side. It's a really pretty piece. I'm excited to work on it eventually, but this other piece caught my eye, kind of hidden behind the washer, and I was just in a mood to do a complete furniture flip, so that's what I'll be working on. And like I mentioned before, I'm not sure what this ever would have been used for. I mean, obviously something was hidden in the top part, like you can flip the top part up, and there's room for, a small appliance, or was it like a shop equipment? I'm just not sure. And you couldn't really have it up against a wall, being that, if you wanted to open it up, you need the room to do that. So it just doesn't seem to me like a very convenient piece to have around, but we'll do something with it. So the first thing to do here is remove all of the hardware, get rid of this weird flip up top. So my vision for this piece is possibly turning it into a small hutch. I know it'll be rather low, like it won't be a tall, big hutch like you normally see. But on our trip, we ended up visiting a few museums and ghost towns, and I was enthralled. Of course, as you can imagine, I love old things, and I noticed that a lot of their furniture was shorter than what we'd use now. And I don't know, is it being that their houses were smaller too, like the ceilings were lower. And I've seen vintage cabinets already in the antique mall that it seems they are a little bit shorter than what people would make now. So I thought I'm going to see how it looks. If it doesn't turn out, it's no big deal. It's fun to try it and just see what we can do with it. I'm going to use that lid, or that top part, as the top part of the hutch, but I don't want it to be as wide as it is, so I'm taking around 4 inches off here, and I'll probably be able to use that 4 inches and then to put underneath my top part, and this will make sense as I kind of put it together. I have some really nice wood here that I plan to use for the top part of the hutch, and it is a hardwood. It's just beautiful. I love wood like this. Ever since we've been back from our vacation, which at the point of filming here is only a day, our cats have been kind of clingy. They follow me everywhere I go, especially Pebbles. She hardly ever ventures out here to the shop. She's kind of timid usually, but she definitely wants to be by my side today. So cute. So I didn't get a video of me cutting all of these pieces, but what I have here is the shelf that will go into the center of the top. And I have some trim pieces that will go out around the top part like this. And then I also have the actual top that I had cut. And I do want to sand these pieces before I fasten them. Sometimes it's just easier that way. And we have a beautiful day on the outside, so I'll be sanding out there. Of course, I'm using my paint sprayer. I always have a link down below in the description box if I use it in a video. It is off of Amazon for around $100, and like I often mention, I couldn't be without it. It's just such a handy tool to have, especially in the summertime when I can go outside and spray paint on the driveway. And the paint I'm using is Do It Best brand paint. It's a satin, has a satin sheen, and it's just their bright white off of the shelf. And I'm kind of nervous. I'm not sure our stain's going to come through, like a lot of old pieces that will happen to, and I definitely don't want this red to come through, so we'll cross our fingers here it won't happen. This is probably kind of hard to see out here in the bright sunlight, but I'm really loving how this is drying. It's definitely not perfect, which I didn't want it to be. I actually want it to look old and flawed, I guess. But there are some stains kind of evenly coming through. Again, I'm not sure is the camera picking that up or not, but to the point that it actually makes it look more like an off-white color than a pure white, which I like to see. I think that makes it look old and vintage. So I don't think I'll apply another coat. I think it looks good the way it is. I'm going to apply some polyacrylic to these boards that are going to be used for the top. I'm going to fasten these boards using my nailer. Normally, you know, screws, of course, would hold better, but I think if I glue it and nail it or pin it, it should be okay. And the back boards, I'll be able to pin from the top side, since my top part of the hutch will hide those little pin heads. But the front boards, I think the front 3 boards will be exposed. So I'm going to put shorter nails in my nailer and then fasten those from the underside. So let's take a closer look. I'm kind of liking the proportion of it. Like I feel like the bottom part is the correct height for the top. I think that looks okay, but there's of course some very noticeable flaws. There's a hole here in the plywood. I should really just putty that and paint over it. And then of course down here where I added that extra piece, we have the seam on both sides. But sometimes when you start, you know, puttying and sanding and painting over, you really still kind of see it, and it just kind of looks like someone, you know, tried to fix it. So I don't think I'm going to spend time with it, being that I want this to look like an old vintage cupboard. I think it'll be okay the way it is. The only other thing I'm debating is adding a top board to this top part. Just another board on top here with an overhang on all sides. I think I could get away with nothing, being that, again, I feel like older cupboards sometimes just had the plain straight lines. But I think it would finish it off to just have a little overhang on the top. Probably just paint it white to match. And then I'm debating to add some little vintage floral wallpaper or something on the back. We'll see, I'm not quite sure. Probably go ahead and fasten the door and kind of see how it looks. The pool that was on the store reminds me so much of some cabinets that Grandma used to have. They all had pools like this, and some even had that button. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, but you actually press down on it to open the door. It was almost like a little latch, and this one doesn't have that, but it does have that same look that I remember. So like I mentioned before, I want some sort of a design to be on the back, like the backing of the top part. And I wanted some, you know, maybe wallpaper, contact paper, like a floral, vintage looking floral, but I didn't have anything on hand. So here I'm going to use this stencil. I'm cutting it down to the right size so that it fits, so I can use it. And this one is from Patterson Art Studio. It's a redesigned stencil. I've talked about them before on here, but make sure to check out their Etsy shop if you enjoy doing this sort of thing. I get all of my decor transfers from them, and they have many other products, you know, along this line. They're an Etsy shop based out of Texas, and you're guaranteed to get good service if you buy from them. You can check them out. They have tons of great reviews and just really interesting products. In the past, the few times that I've used stencils, I think I always use one of those little spouncer tools. But today I'm going to try to use a roller. I did see some video footage where people used rollers, and I think key is probably not to get too much paint on the roller so that it doesn't, you know, run underneath the stencil, because I know I've had issues with that in the past. And the color I'm using today is a pretty green color. It's called Lichen Moss, and I've used it before on my projects. I really debated, do I want to go with like a pale yellow, because I think that would be really, you know, vintage looking. Blue I think would be really pretty too, but you guys know I like green, and I'm going to go with this pretty green color. So using this stencil went pretty good, I think. I'm sure I could probably use some tips. I should have checked with Cheryl from Patterson Art Studio just to see if I'm doing it correctly here. I just didn't do a lot of research, just kind of winged it, I guess, like I often do, but I think they turned out pretty good. I had some paint, you know, run underneath the stencil for me. Still not quite sure how to completely, you know, prevent that. I felt better with using a hairdryer to dry my paint before lifting the stencil. I thought that kind of helped to make sure it doesn't, you know, smear for me. This top part is pretty much finished. I have some touch-up work that I want to do. I did hit some of the sides with the green paint, so I want to touch that up, and then also some of these edges I didn't get painted, so I'll just use the brush to do it. I'm going to go ahead and sand the edges on this piece. That way, if it naturally chips off, it looks like it's, you know, supposed to be. Plus, it'll make it look, you know, nice and old. I hope you guys enjoyed following along as I worked on that piece of furniture. I gotta say, when I started out, it looked a bit hopeless, but I love how it turned out. It really reminds me of one of Grandma's little vintage cupboards she used to have. So I guess it's just a reminder again to not discard, you know, old odd looking pieces of furniture. They could still have some purpose. Before ending here, I have a few things I want to show you, a new product and then some of the soap that we have in stock. Smells so good beside me here. My cousin Susie made some of the soap and then some I had made myself. Gotta say they all smell amazing. The sweet pineapple smells exactly like pineapple and the lemon and jasmine smells so summery. And then we have the spearmint, natural orange, rosemary and mint, eucalyptus, lavender are some of the scents that we've carried for a while but just recently restocked them. The lavender chamomile has always been one of my favorites. In fact, I take the end pieces sometimes and put them in my vehicle so I can smell it as I'm driving. So check out those listings if you're looking for a clean, fresh, natural bar of soap. And then we have these signs available, and John recently told me he has a number of these white pieces in the shop, and why not, you know, turn them into signs? They were left over from another project. So this morning I put this quote on here. I think it's so fitting to remind us to be content, you know, with what we have. These signs will be available on the Etsy shop only, and then the soap will be on the website and the Etsy shop. I sometimes like to have them in both places. So if you see that one is sold out on the one site, make sure to check out the other. It might still be available on there. So as always, I hope your day is going great. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.